Okay, Jonathan Fibonojji, day 461, Saul 461 of my homeless journey. In fact, I was talking to somebody earlier today who didn't like my particular homeless journey. In fact, I run into that a lot. Here I am, Jonathan Fibonojji. You can email me, Americano417@gmail.com. One thing I've done is, I'm going to tell my story. And I've mentioned before on this channel that one thing I want to do is I want to make sure that my story is told, not so much that Jonathan Fibonojji or Jonathan Spears receives any credit, but I believe that I could bring some honesty to the homeless narrative. Because, I said once to a girl who was talking to another girl about men, as I said in jest to her, I said, be careful about getting advice about men from women. Well, I'll also say, be careful about getting homeless advice from someone who's never been homeless. And in fact, a lot of times whenever there's a discussion of homelessness, it's almost always couched or spoken about from people who have homes, who have bread, who have showers and shower facilities, who are not kicked out of public spaces at random. So one thing that you can get from this YouTube channel, hopefully, is a lot of authenticity. And one thing that I want to do, obviously, is I want to talk about photography, and I'm even kind of moving into some food photography. But I saw this, and I thought this would be a good day 461 example. And then I guess, what do you want to call this? Hypocrisy in America. Now, I love Les Mis. I love film. Anybody who watches this channel, this YouTube channel, knows that I love photography and I love film. And I think anybody who really wants to be a filmmaker inherently loves photography. And one of my favorite movies of all time is Les Mis. And specifically the one with Liam Neeson. That's one of my favorite films of all time. Now, what's interesting is Les Mis is really a Jonathan Fibonojji story because it's about homelessness. But it's the kind of homelessness that Americans like. It's, well, homelessness that's in another place. So what is hypocrisy? Well, you're like, well, this is the miserable video, Jonathan Fibonojji. You ramble and you're all over the map. Well, okay, I got this email from a friend last night. And of course it pissed me off because, I've said before, one of the things that you can learn is who your friends are by going homeless. I've said before, homelessness solves every problem you have. If you have bad relationships, well, go homeless, remove the money from the situation, and you'll see people for who they are. And it's been on this journey that I have decided to not talk about money in terms of that little pleasant word money, but actually to use the word that the Bible uses, which is mammon. So my friend emailed me last night, and he says, Jonathan, your videos are all over the map. And of course, he's talking about Fox News, and he wanted to give me some political advice. And I'm like, nigga, I am literally trespassing and not stealing food, but the only food that I eat is when Jesus gives it to me through somebody else. So he wanted to be a quote a friend. He's like, I don't have any help for you, but I got some political advice, which when he says that, I immediately know that he's coming from a mammon perspective. I mean, who emails a friend and wants to talk about politics when that person knows that I don't have literally food? Well, that's, again, I've said before, if you want the best life improvement advice that I can give you, go homeless and remove the money from your life, and you'll see your friends not at year 15 when you need them, but at year 1. So I have this one friend, and he likes to watch my video, and I'm glad he does. My channel's growing, and we're all over the I get emails from Australia. I get emails from all kinds of people. And that's one reason why I love doing it. Where some homeless people just drink and sort of move into oblivion that way. Well, I'm Jonathan Fibonojji, and I'm going to obviously have opinions because should I perish, I want the narrative of homelessness that I've experienced to be known and seen. Because I think homelessness is one of those least honest conversations we're having about in America. Like, for example, Les Mis, while we love to talk about who's who and how wonderful this movie is, Les Mis is about a corrupt government oppressing its people to the point of starvation. And how Valjean, the character in that, again, you just Google the story or go watch it. 1832. It's talking about governmental corruption where people literally lose food. It's a wonderful movie, and I hope you go see that. In fact, if you're producing Les Mis, you probably will have no better advocate than Jonathan Fibonojji. But I will be a very honest one. Well, back to what my friend said in my YouTube video last night. He's like, your videos are all over the map. And I'm like, well, I'm trying to do all kinds of things. I'm trying to obviously talk about some unpleasant things, like how homelessness is not pleasant and how the police routinely don't even enforce laws when we're protected. Like I got strangled at a Jewish synagogue. I had 8 police officers that refused to cite that person with attempted with assault and battery. I mean, I literally have a video of my bleeding hand trying to take a man's arm off my neck, and the police officers are saying that they don't want to prosecute that. Well, because I am homeless, and the person who made the phone call, who has cell phone service, was offended. Well, I was just trying to do photography. Well, compare that to the Me Too narrative. Let me say that again. Compare my video outside of a Jewish synagogue in San Francisco, where I'm literally bleeding after being attacked. Police officers do nothing. Compare that to the Me Too narrative. Compare that to the Me Too narrative. And I know this sounds crazy, but I saw this, and of course I'm talking a lot about Jesus, which is probably another very unpopular thing to talk about. But let me show it to you here. It's verse 20, and it says this. It says, and many a people, this is talking about Jesus. This is after Jesus, who is the good shepherd. These are the things that they said about Jesus, that he was mad and that he was insane and that he rambled or that he was a raven. It says, why do you listen to him? So what's my point? Well, homelessness is an unpopular discussion because it speaks directly to our love of mammon and what our societies do to poor people. And yes, we'll talk about tribalism and how San Francisco, specifically San Francisco, is a tribal city, and how the tribes of San Francisco are making the white person from Oklahoma, the white person from Tennessee, and let me be more specific, the white men are becoming extinct in international cities, and why we need to care about that. Now, I hate to end on politics, but we had a candidate that talked about making America great. Now, I didn't vote in the last election. I lost a finance business, so I'll leave to your own imagination who I probably would have voted for. I mean, I lost a business because of Dodd-Frank. So there's no way in fuck that I would have ever voted for Hillary Clinton, who herself helped write the legislation that put my business out of business. But this guy named, I think I was out there in Durango, Colorado. There's a little ski resort. In fact, it's not even called Durango Mountain Resort. It's called Purgatory. And that's where I first went homeless. That's where I really experienced an economy going to hell, and how living in Durango for 400 days, literally sleeping in the snow, denied food, that's where I really cut my teeth on homelessness. And then tired of the police brutality and the lack of income out there, I left Durango, the Durango Mountain Resort, and I came to San Francisco where I could at least work. Now the conflict is the tribalism, and the least employed person in San Francisco is the white men. Now, Jews are okay here, the Hungarians are okay here, the crazy rich Asians are okay here, LGBT, you got that covered. All the tribes are represented. The one tribe that is consistently disenfranchised, the one that, well, we're the miserable, the Les Mis people. Guess who they are? The new niggas, the new homeless people. And how homelessness, again, is a very unpopular conversation because we have to admit that it's a linguistic blanket that talks about all kinds of things. Homelessness is about hunger. It's about public spaces. Thank you, Howard Schultz. Homelessness is about police brutality, police corruption. Go watch my videos where, again, I was just taking pictures in a Jewish synagogue. When you tell the next homeless person to go get a job, go watch my video where I went to Levi Strauss, and every question she asked violated federal law, and she just wanted to figure out who this white guy is. And when I finally said, your questions are out of line, that's when I pulled my camera out. I mean, again, are we holding corporations accountable to even federal law? Are we holding cities accountable to federal law? I mean, if we're going to worship mammon, let's worship the laws. In public spaces, thank you, Howard Schultz with Starbucks. Let me close with that. Now, Howard Schultz, I hope to eventually meet him. But what he did was both a good move business-wise, but also a good move for humanity. Because he knows from a business perspective that you can't kick an entire class of people out of your stores and not get sued. But he took it a step further. This is what makes Howard Schultz a really good person, not just a good CEO, was that he recognized that when people were calling the cops to kick homeless people out, what he was really doing was defending homeless, poor people. So thank you, Howard Schultz. I would love to interview you on this podcast. Email me, Americano417@gmail.com. Or if you know anybody at the Les Mis people, you're like, seriously, that was the best synopsis of Les Mis ever? Now, I may not make the who's who. These are all the actors. These people have homes. In fact, every one of them is talking about how they're happy to go on the debut or the world tour. And I'm happy for all the people that are doing the Les Mis thing. But let's be honest, Les Mis is about governmental corruption and how poor people who are just looking for bread are oppressed. And who's having that review other than Jonathan Fibonojji? Email me at Americano417@gmail.com. And if you think I'm rambling or crazy, insane, then guess what? They said the same things about Jesus the Christ. Open your Bible, John 10, verse 20 says this. Boom. Thank you for taking this journey with me.